Hi everyone, and welcome to a Princess Connect video on how to start strong. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Once we hit 7,500 subs, we'll be doing a giveaway. And one of the first things that you want to do is build a tank. For me specifically, I went with Peco. Let's talk about some other tanks. Some other tanks are going to be Kuuka. Just note that Kuuka is a magical tank and she takes, skills in order to warm up to do other things like physical tanking. But just note that her role is mainly magical tanking, alright? The next tank that we're going to talk about is Miyako. Miyako is the premier physical tank, and most of the enemies that you're going to be facing are physical, so Miyako is good. Just note that she kind of falls off later just because of the fact that she's a selfish character. She only boosts herself, she only heals herself, where other characters, they help out and they do other things outside of, just boosting and helping themselves out, right? Next thing is going to be the best tank currently in the game, which is Nozomi. The reason why is she provokes enemies. So when she provokes enemies, they will pretty much congregate to her, and she can also do other things where she can power up allies. So it's one of those things where she's doing more than one thing than just tanking, and not to mention she has more stars. Just note that more stars mean higher stats, so she is the premier tank. Note that if you pull her and Makoto, I will say that you have an insanely crazy account. What's even crazier is if you pull Nozomi, Shizuru, and Djeeta all on one roll, within the first couple multis you do, one or two, that'll be really crazy as well. Alright, so the next thing that you want to do after you've decided on a tank, usually you want to rush a bit of story. Ideally, rush enough story to get one multi. Just note that multis essentially cost 1500 gems or jewels. And also to know, if you go into details and then you go into the notes section, the rates for draw 1 are identical to the rates for the first 9th, and the results of the 10th is pretty much going to be a 2-star or a 3-star, alright? They do have this system where you can do one, pull at a time, and the 10th one will be a guaranteed 2 and above, alright? Just to know. And the reason why you want to do, at least a couple of multis or a couple singles in the beginning is so you can diversify your roster. You want a pretty large set of characters that you can pick from for, your DPSs and support. For example, a good DPS for me, which is physical, is going to be Suzuna. You can use her. A good support that everyone highly recommends is going to be Kokkoro. She's an easy one to definitely build. That's going to be her. Just note that any character that's at 1-star, they're a lot better once they hit 2-star. All right, so for example, I raised my Peco to 2-star because it was very worth it. She was my only tank, and I didn't feel like doing more pulls in order to try to find another tank, because ideally you only do 1 to 2 pulls on the gacha. You don't want to exceed that, because what happens is in the future there's going to be limited banners. Don't forget, we are in the holiday season, and Crunchyroll, they are a company that does things, and you got to be careful with your jewels and you want to play it smart. That's all I'm trying to say here. All right, so once you pretty much get those characters, you want to solidify your roster to 5 or 6, ideally 5 in the beginning, just in the beginning, because you want to get to quest and then go to main quest and hit 4-1 as soon as possible. The reason why you want to do 4-1 is because you are going to unlock a particular portion in the grotto. All right, so if you go into quest and then you go into grotto, the thing that you want to unlock is the mana quest level 2 specifically. The reason why you want these mana quests unlocked as soon as possible is because it will provide you more mana. And mana is the most intense, most craziest resource I've seen in any gacha, because it applies to pretty much every single asset of a character. If you want to build gear, you need mana. So for example, it cost me 7,000 mana to build a shield. If I want to level up a skill, it takes mana. Oh, I didn't mean to do that, but oh well. You can see here my mana went down, alright? So it's one of those things where mana rules everything, and note that gear, when you put it on, it's permanent. So when you build a character, it's all in. There's no takebacks. Well, there's takebacks later on, but even then, technically, you don't get refunded the full resources. Better to try and play this game, even if you don't think that you're going to, you want to start when Global actually launches. Because what happens is Princess Connect is a very subtle and very confusing game. What I mean by this is, like, a lot of the characters, they don't exactly tell you what they do specifically, and most of the characters can be difficult to build. This isn't a beginner guide, right? This is a strong day 1 guide. So this is a warning to you. Just build 5 characters, you know, ideally 2 DPS, 1 support, and 1 tank. Their, you know, character can be either a DPS or a tank, and run a healer. I don't recommend it, you know, just going to 4-1, just because the healer won't be that effective in the early game, but you can definitely build it, you know, much later down the road. Anyways, now that we've talked about mana, let's go ahead and talk about dungeon. This is going to be the next feature that you want to unlock as soon as possible. And you want to clear normal dungeon at least within, you know, day 1, day 3, right? Within those couple of days, you want to pretty much get out of normal dungeon. The reason why you want to get to hard dungeon as soon as possible is if you go into the shop right here, you're going to get dungeon coins. Now, the reason why dungeon coins are so important is I'm going to show you something. This is the amount of dungeon coins that you can get later on. You can see here, I got 400 dungeon coins. I got 4 hand axes, and I got some shards for a character. That is so important because what happens is I can use those coins to buy a 3-star character or the highest rarity character / the best tank currently in the game, Nozomi. Alright, you don't get much from the initial dungeon in normal, right? I think the highest like amount of coins that you can get at the tippity top, which is like the hardest boss that you can fight in Cloud Top Peak, is only 100 coins. If you go into Deepwood Oak, the first like couple of things that you fight will give you 100 coins right off the bat. So the hardest thing that you fought in normal will give it to you as soon as you tackle like the dungeon coin bosses within Deepwood Oak in hard. So dungeon is going to be a huge resource at the very beginning, and you want to get to hard as soon as possible. You don't have to unlock it, you know, by day 1. You don't have to get to hard, but if you do somehow get to hard and then very hard, my props out to you, because you're definitely, you know, a trailblazer in that. After you've pretty much done Grotto and dungeon, next is going to be arena. Now, the reason why arena is going to be, you know, somewhat important, if you go into, if you click the eye right here and then you go into reward list, arena is going to be providing you gems. It's going to be your biggest resource for jewels at the very start of the game. Just note that you don't have to focus on it, and it requires a completely different roster. It's an entirely different meta, but you want to push PvP so you can get in higher placement ranks. You saw the rewards list. Pretty much the higher you place, the more like daily jewels that you can get, and the more jewels you get, the more pulls you can get. The more pulls you can get, you know, the better characters you get, the more stars you can get, this, that, and the third. Just to note that if you pull dupes in this game, you get something known as the Divine Amulet. So if you go into home and then you go into the shop and then you go to the very last, you know, I guess the third to last section, you get these Divine Amulets, and this is how you spend them. Be very frugal. Ideally, you don't spend any of them right now. If you have to, do what you need to do in order to raise the characters that you feel like is going to help you progress. So let's round things out with what you need to do to start day 1 strong. You need to pick a tank. You know, ideally you pick something like Miyako or Nozomi. All right, if you're lucky, you know, you get Nozomi. If you're unlucky, you don't pull either or like me, and then you build up Peco, right, or Pecorine. Next thing is going to be you do a couple pulls on the gacha, or you do main quest, you know, and get through it so you can at least do 1 single on the gacha. Just note that if you go into the menu and you link an account, you can get more pulls via the Crunchyroll method. This can get you banned though, so I'm just, you know, sharing that for awareness, but you can do that for a quicker reroll, all right? And I'll list all the characters that are ideal and what they mean in certain symbols, all right? Next thing is going to be after you pretty much do your multis and you set your characters, you're going to invest in like at least 5 characters specifically, and you're going to invest most of your resource into your tank and into a DPS. For example, Suzuna is my DPS for this team. Next thing is going to be going back into quest and then going to 4-1 on main quest as soon as possible. And the reason why you want to do that, like we talked about before, is to unlock Grotto and to do mana quests and to unlock level 2 specifically, because the more mana that you can get, the more characters that you can build. But also, most importantly, you shouldn't build more characters. It's just so that you can make your characters much stronger overall, because mana influences everything, alright? Mana really does influence everything. After quests and you pretty much complete like most of the Grotto stuff, you know, in the day 1 progress, you're gonna go into dungeon and get as far as possible that you can in normal. And ideally you can beat normal within, you know, day 2, day 3, or day 4 at minimum. The reason why: you want dungeon shop coins, so you can unlock Nozomi. Another character that you can technically invest into is technically Yukari. Honestly, it's probably best to put everything in Nozomi, just my opinion, because she is going to carry you through some content, especially at the start of the game. After that, you've done Grotto and Dungeon. Dip your toes into PvP just so you can get an extra bang in jewels, and from there you pretty much just progress through the quest line and upgrade your characters. So the gameplay loop for this game is pretty straightforward. What happens is you're completing quests throughout the game, and what you do in order to progress is you select a character, whichever one you want to build. For example, Monika. You select this, you go how to obtain, you go to this weapon, and then you pretty much just farm this, specific place in order to get the weapon that I want, so I can equip it onto my character. Just know I'm going to show you this, and I'll leave the link in the description. Items on the very left hand side will have a higher drop rate. That is the most important thing to note. Technically, you get more mana when you tackle a harder stage. What I'm trying to say here is that, for example, 5-10 has a higher drop rate for the shield, but it will provide me less mana than 6-6. So it's up to you how you want to do this. Do you value mana, or do you want to get gear on your character as soon as possible? Just a couple of things to round out today's video. When you're starting strong in Princess Connect and you're pretty much rushing the quest line, you're rushing main quest, grotto, dungeon, and battle arena, you are probably going to be spending gems along the way. You can refresh your stamina up to 3 times. That's the recommended amount. Even do a single pull into your mana. It's just not recommended by a lot of the guides. And if you plan to really push content hard, the only benefits that you get is that you acquire resources much faster than everyone else, and also you'll have higher ranks in PvP, because the whole goal in acquiring resources and being higher in PvP is so essentially that you have more gems at the end of the day to do more pulls. It doesn't make sense to start really strong and then use up your jewel reservoir, and you can't do more pulls when banners pop up. All right, so that's something that I just wanted to briefly state out before you go crazy. You do stamina refills out the waz, and you just blitz through all the quests. You blitz through grotto, blitz through dungeon, blitz through arena. Be very aware of your jewel reservoir, so that when banners do appear, you can pull appropriately. But anyways, that's it for today's video. If you have any tips, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Anyways, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. Once we hit 7,500 subs, we'll be doing a giveaway. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.